Hello everyone, I am back with another video. This time it is Dragon Ball Daima episode 12, True Strength. How was everyone's Christmas? I'll show you something off here. My sister got me this. What do you think? Nice chopper jumper. I thought it was neat. Pink's not really my colour, but, you know, I'll rock it. So I've tried to keep the video title as spoiler-free as possible, but I'm sure most of you have probably seen the big reveal already for this episode, but I'll save it for when it actually happens in the episode. So act surprised when I talk about it, I suppose. I'll try my best to act surprised. So where we left off last time, Majin Buu was dominating Tamagami number 1, and Vegeta seemingly got swallowed by the Kraken during his fight against Tamagami number 2. And we lead off, Goku's concerned about Vegeta and gets close to the water, and what happens is he almost gets eaten himself. And we don't have to wait long to find out what happened to Vegeta, because it turns out he is holding on to one of the Kraken's tentacles, and he is A-OK. Thumbs up. So anyway, Vegeta resumes his fight against Tamagami number 2, and I don't like this fighting style of the Tamagami. He knocks Vegeta back to the Kraken. Like, surely have an honourable fight, you know? Don't use the environment to your advantage because you're a metal man who's not going to get eaten. Seems unfair. But as he gets knocked back into the Kraken, I think this is actually a really cool scene where Vegeta transforms into Super Saiyan to evade the Kraken's attack. So now he's bumped it up a gear. He's in Super Saiyan. And just, you know, as I complain about the Tamagami number 2's fighting styles, he blasts Vegeta in the back as he moves away from the Kraken and fires him into the Kraken's mouth. So he's in the process of being eaten again, I suppose. But again, another really cool moment where Vegeta, after the Kraken's mouth closes on him, you start seeing crackling lightning, and we know what's happening here. He's transforming to Super Saiyan 2, and in the darkness, it just looks so cool. I took a little kind of screen grab of one frame where it shows the lightning, but it looks so cool in action. If you haven't watched it, you really should do it. It looks amazing. But there is an explosion. The Kraken's mouth is forced open, Vegeta gets out, and clearly the Kraken has had enough of this shit and just decides to leave. So that's that obstacle out of the way. So Vegeta and the Tamagami start exchanging blows again, but it's clear, as we saw with Goku's fight against Tamagami number 3, that Super Saiyan 2 is pretty much beyond them. That at least Goku and Vegeta's Super Saiyan 2. So Vegeta's clearly getting the upper hand at this point. But we swap scenarios, and now we're going to see Majin Buu against Tamagami number 1. And he starts doing Majin Buu stuff, you know, stretching the body, being all gooey. But we already knew he had the upper hand here. And, you know, it seems to be a staple of Majin Buu, but another butt attack to the face. This poor Tamagami. And then an interesting turn of events that I kind of wondered might happen in the previous episode, where Buu just breaks off from the fight, sits down, because he wants more chocolate. Now, is this gonna be a recurring theme for Buu? Will it be a breaking point for him some point in the future? We will see. I wonder. I just hope that he and Ku just keep being a goofy duo, but is chocolate gonna be his tipping point? He even starts having a tantrum when he is initially refused chocolate. So anyway, while he's having his tantrum, Majin Buu says he'll go off and get more chocolate. And before we find out what happens there, we switch scenes again. We're back to Vegeta versus Tamagami number 2. But just as Vegeta has the upper hand, Never starts doing something. Power comes to his hands. This power hits the Tamagami, and everyone's wondering, what did you do? Obviously, he's powered him up. And the reasoning for this is Never remembered that, you know, it was said that Goku and Vegeta love a good fight, so he's basically powered up the Tamagami to give Vegeta a better fight. And we snap back, and the Tamagami has a new, updated appearance. So Vegeta's going to have a tougher fight on his hands. So seemingly Tamagami number 2 starts getting the upper hand, but before we can see what happens here, we change to the other fight now, and it's back to Majin Do versus Tamagami number 1, who is now also getting the upper hand because Do essentially is refusing to fight and is now just kind of running away. And because of all the commotion, Majin Do and Tamagami number 1 get an audience as well. Lucky them. And I know I normally skim over these guys, but it's interesting that they cut away to Goma and Dagus at this point, and they were watching Vegeta's fight until they felt a bit of a rumbling, and they were watching Vegeta's fight. They swipe, and now they've found out that Do was obviously fighting Tamagami number 1. Now, the reason they felt the rumbling, I assume, considering it's Goma, they're probably on, Demon Realm number 1. So they get the vibrations of that fight, so they're nearby. I don't know if that means they'll get involved at some point, but they're not happy that there's 2 fights going, that both the Tamagamis are being fought right now. Okay, I had to freeze on this frame because look at Ku's stupid face, but he has look at that whole bag of chocolate now. He's like Krillin handing out senzu beans, but he's throwing chocolate. So he tosses Do a chocolate, and it looks like they're covered for a bit with chocolate. So maybe Do's going to be under control for a bit, but Do gets his chocolate and starts fighting seriously again. And then I just love Do, and just like. The Tamagami struggles to hold back that big mouth blast, and then Do just lets off a smaller mouth blast, and it overwhelms the Tamagami and just explodes him. Great. I just love his fighting style. So then Goma wants to know who's fighting the Tamagami, and I just love that they zoom in. Look at Aaron's and Majin Ku's expressions. They're so dumb. I love Aaron's, for such a serious character, does some of the goofiest expressions. I love her. But then, with Tamagami number 1 backed into a corner, he seemingly also gets a powered up form similar to Tamagami number 2, just without Never's help. I don't know if maybe if they're backed into a corner, they can access this power, and Never in the Tamagami number 2 fight just sort of brought it on earlier. But, similar to how the Tamagami number 2 went blue, he's gone orange, so he's got a bit more in his arsenal now. And did I mention before that I love Majin Do's fighting style? The Tamagami kind of goes for a stab with his big old serrated sword, and Do just kind of wraps his neck around the sword and headbutts him. I mean, just love this guy. But Tamagami number 1 lunges at Do. Do launches a massive ki blast. And what's the end result? Well, Do emerges victorious, standing with the Tamagami on the floor, and he admits defeat. But even though Do has won, just like Tamagami number 3, there is a final challenge after the physical fight. And I also love this little cutaway back to Goma and Dagus, where Dagus seems to be suffering some serious PTSD seeing Majin Ku and Majin Do lamenting what Arins has done. Obviously, he went through the whole attempt of a purge by Bibidi with Majin Buu, I guess. So, anyway, what's the final challenge, you may wonder? Mental arithmetic. Now, you might have thought what I did, whereas mental arithmetic, that's not going to be Majin Du's strong suit. So the numbers in this mental arithmetic edition start very small, but then become massive, and they just keep spamming more and more numbers. You're like, this is impossible. No one can solve it. But it turns out Majin Ku might be smarter than we all gave credit for, because he is able to solve it. And he relays the answer, and Do picks it up and relays the answer to the Tamagami, and it turns out he's correct. Now, and then obviously Majin Du gets the Dragon Ball, and when Majin Ku wants to get credit for the assist, as he puts it, turns out no one else other than Majin Du saw or heard him say it. And so he gets no credit, but Majin Ku, being such a nice guy, doesn't seem to mind. And I love Majin Ku as well. So with that one over, we go back to Vegeta versus Tamagami number 2, and it seems that the powered up Tamagami is now an even match for Vegeta, who at this point, I guess you'd put him as a high level Super Saiyan 2. So that's the limit of the Tamagami's power, it seems. But Vegeta then gets grabbed, he gets blasted, and that reverts him back to base. Is he defeated? Well, not quite yet. We see the scene we saw in the episode preview from last week, where Vegeta is lying down on the bottom of the ocean floor, and he starts to power up again. So when I first saw this, I want to say that I thought it was going to be him doing like Super Saiyan 2 Rage or whatever it was called from Battle of the Gods, but I'd already seen spoilers for this. So we're getting to the big reveal now. Vegeta turns Super Saiyan 3. Now look, I'll be honest, it's cool. I think a lot of us have always wanted a canon Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. Now, this opens a lot of questions about, especially Battle of Gods, where Vegeta needs to go all out against Beerus, but only ever goes Super Saiyan 2. Ultimately, Super Saiyan 2 Rage was stronger than Super Saiyan 3, but it begs the question why he never turned Super Saiyan 3. I've seen people suggest it's because it's a high wasted energy sort of form, but it which is true, but the power you get from Super Saiyan 3 easily outweighs the cost of all the wasted energy, hence why Vegeta's turning Super Saiyan 3 here. It's a great form at the time. Obviously, the god powers supersede it greatly, but until then, it's a fantastic form. So it does open a bit of a plot hole of why he never used it, but I think it's just best ignored, really, and just have to roll with it, really. So when Vegeta starts to become dominant in a fight, he becomes so disrespectful, because he immediately just starts fighting with his arms crossed, sort of like how Vegito did against against Buhan. It's like so disrespectful, but I'm here for it. So, talking about Vegeta fighting like a disrespectful little shit, he starts just blocking the Tamagami tridents with just a finger, and then just breaks the trident altogether. But you can tell a lot of love went into this, because look at this amazing shot. Vegeta kicks a ki blast at the Tamagami, and it parts the water, and this shot of just the parted water and Vegeta chasing the Tamagami, it just looks amazing. I'm going to keep waxing lyrical about stuff in this episode, but Vegeta dominates the fight for a bit, and then charges up a Gallic gun, sending the Tamagami flying. And then as he manages to push it away, Vegeta follows up with a punch that sends him flying again, and he just catches him, at which point the Tamagami gives up, and Vegeta is victorious. But, just like the other two Tamagami, there is a final challenge, and for Vegeta, it is a question/riddle. So the riddle is as follows, see if you can solve it. The Martian child Johnny gets 15 biscuits from his mother and goes for a walk. After eating 1/3 of the biscuits, Johnny encounters Jiro, the goat. Jiro asks for half of the remaining biscuits, so Johnny hands over half. But Jiro worries he was too greedy and returns 2 of the biscuits. Johnny then meets Saburo, the dog, and gives him a biscuit. But Shiro, the monkey, suddenly appears and steals 3. Johnny continues on, keeping his anger under control. He then encounters Ichiro, the snake. The kind Johnny then decides to give Ichiro the rest of his biscuits. How many biscuits was Ichiro able to eat? So, if you did all the math correctly and worked out that the answer is indeed 3, you would have got it wrong, because Vegeta gets it right and the answer is 0. Makes no sense? Well, it kind of does. It was a trick question. Ichiro is a snake. Snakes don't eat biscuits. And the asked question was, how many biscuits does he eat? 0. So Vegeta gets the Dragon Ball, and they are all now claimed. 2 for Goku's team and 1 for Arin's. So I guess they're going to have to come to a clash at some point. So with that, they are now heading off to the first demon world to get the 1-star Dragon Ball without realizing it's already been claimed. So I think this is where it's all going to come to a head, where I don't know who's going to clash. Is it going to be Aaron's group and Goku's group? Is Goma going to get involved as well? We will find out, but not next week, because unfortunately we're on a break and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. So I'll see you all then. Bye for now.